Hello, everyone, and welcome to tomorrow for April 7th, 2024. So glad to have you all here with us. I'm Jared, going to be kind of quarterbacking the show today. I've got over to this direction to me, Della, our director, in the middle, and we've also got Ryan with a great shirt on, Circuit of the Americas. I've been there before. Cool place. And we hope that you are having a great weekend wherever you may be. Or if you watch Suzuka or something this weekend, or if you're in transit, as I am going to be very shortly today. So, where should we begin our discussion today? Because in spaceflight, there was just a lot happening this week, like an unbelievable amount of things from a huge number of companies. Right, SpaceX had their sort of annual shindig of Elon giving us an update. Yeah, spaceship or Starship, thank you, exploration, Starship go burp. We also heard from Relativity as well. We got a little hint at Terran R. We got some more from Launcher. I believe they tested their bigger engine. Stoke Space as well is working on their first stage, revealed a bit more. It's all over the place. And of course, I want to say hi to Tony Shipek, saying hello from 35,000 feet, headed to Boston and then to Vermont for the darkness. Yes, indeed. And I'm going to be leaving in a few hours to go to Texas for what will possibly end up being cloudy darkness. But Tony, enjoy that, and good luck and good weather to all of you who are going to be hunting tomorrow. So where shall we begin? Because there's a lot besides just the eclipse and that to talk about. I think we should do a little space flight first before we jump into the eclipse. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do.
I think that sounds good.
Space flight stuff first.
Yeah, let's do it. So,
I could give you a hot fire roundup if you so desire of the hot fire being a very apt expression for what's been going on over the last
I'm desperate
few
for one, Ryan.
days.
Give me one.
So let's kick it off with Relativity, Terran R. They kind of unveiled a new look at the aft end of their booster, their first stage, with an interesting array of 13 engines in kind of a crisscross pattern. So it's not circular. If you imagine the engine array on Falcon 9 with 9 engines in a square, so 333, they've kind of done that, but they've got like 3,
so it's
5, 3, 5, 3.
It's a diamond with squares on the points, and then a single in the center, right?
Mm-hmm. So this is to relax. So I think the reason they've gone with this approach is because if they did say 10 on the outside, 10 engines around the outside in a circle, and then 3 in the middle, they wouldn't be able to just ignite one engine for a single engine burn, which, as we've seen with Falcon, you may want to do if you are doing things like boost back burns or entry burns or landing burns, which I'm sure Relativity intends to do in the future. So I think this, it looks a bit bonkers, but, you know, thinking about it beyond the aesthetics, it kind of does make sense a little bit. And it will certainly be very exciting to see that engine array fly for the first time, and hopefully not too soon. Of course, they are currently retrofitting their launch pad for that, a much larger rocket than Terran 1 was. So yeah, I'm excited to see it fly. It's kind of originally was going to be baby Starship, and they've kind of gone down their own path now. I wouldn't say abandoning 3D printing, but certainly cutting back on the idea everything has to be 3D printed, and instead going for the more traditional, rolls of steel, which they're going to be turning into rings and then stacking like many different vehicles have in the past. So yeah, Relativity doing good things, making nice progress. Certainly one of them companies to keep an eye on. Another one of those companies to keep an eye on is Stoke Space, because they, or rather their CEO, Andy Lapser and founder, tweeted a picture of the engine which will power their first stage. And he did. There were loads of replies to the tweet. He did respond to a lot of them, and he kind of said, "Well, this is a bit of a test bed engine, bit of a development engine." However, he also replied to a reply saying that this could be flight hardware. And then the day later, from Stoke Space's actual Twitter account, they tweeted a picture of it mounted on a testing rig. So Stoke Space has made tremendous progress in their engine in the last few weeks and months. Of course, we saw them not that long ago rolling out a scaled down Pathfinder development tank to test with, and now they're already moving on to testing engines for their Nova rocket. And if you didn't know, Stoke Space was founded by a couple of people who left Blue Origin, and they were Andy Lapser specifically worked on the BE4 engine, which we saw perform flawlessly on Vulcan's first flight. So, you know, these are smart engine people at Stoke Space. They know what they're doing. And this picture that you can see right now, I mean, you can see that it's definitely not as tucked in and as concise as the head of Raptor is, but that's a cool looking engine. I'm a fan of this engine. It looks very cool. It's definitely spaghetti at the moment. You cannot doubt that, but it does look. I do like the look of it. If I haven't made that abundantly obvious already, yeah, I like it. I like this engine.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that this is very clearly a test rig. So this is not at all what will end up flying. So you know, you gotta make sure that you understand that it's going to be a little bumpy in terms of its looks with that there. So it'll be much more tidy when it comes time to fly.
Yeah. And then
I was going to say, if we wanted to go back, I've got the relativity space image of
let's take a look at it.
With that there. So, it was absolutely fascinating what they were doing here. And I'm trying to pull it up because they've got a whole thing on their Twitter here. This is a fun one. Yes, I'm going to share my screen. Don't worry. There we go.
I saw it on LinkedIn, and yeah,
it's definitely an interesting configuration to say the least. But like you said, Ryan, it seems to be the correct one if you are trying to do that burn that you need, but also still have the power that you have. So
yeah, and if you think back to Falcon 9's square array, it was abandoned because SpaceX wanted to simplify the design of that end of the Falcon 9 to have the same engine kind of housing, 8 of the same housing, and then only a second circular one for the center Merlin on the Falcon 9. However, in Relativity's case, 13 doesn't divide nicely to have a single center engine unless you do a configuration such as this. So I think it makes sense to, okay, you're sacrificing some similarity between each of your engine housings, but you have a design, you have a vehicle design which allows you to perform. It gives you a increased number of options, shall I say, when you are going in for something like a landing burn, which is mission critical in order to land the booster. So something similar to what Starship did when it was doing its 10-kilometer hop flights. They'd ignite 2 or 3 of the engines that they had and then cut back down to 1 for the redundancy of seeing if any of the engines would work. I can see Relativity wanting to do a similar thing, which is why they've chosen this engine layout.
So with this layout, they've got the option of 1 engine, 3 engines, 4 engines, 5, I think 6, maybe even 7, as all symmetrical thrust profiles. Like that's a wide array of capabilities there. That's actually pretty smart.
And by having that kind of crisscross pattern in the middle, if they need 3 engines, but they lose one, like say that they lose the one over here, they can switch to those 3 engines because they'll do the exact same job because it's all symmetrical.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Very nice way of handling it. So I quite like that. So it's almost like smart people work in the aerospace industry. I would have never guessed. I would have never thought about this.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I mean, you know, our chat room is pining for it, of course, from John, a comment from John T there saying Starship is getting much bigger. So I guess we have to talk about, I don't want to call it the elephant in the room, but I mean, Starship is becoming bigger in the sense that it might become bigger, ?
Yeah. I mean, it was always on the horizon. I don't think there has been a Starship kind of announcement or presentation or talk from Elon Musk that hasn't mentioned Starship getting bigger over the last however many years. It's not like this is a big shock. It's just the first time that SpaceX has publicly released a render of a taller Starship, with Starship V2 being approximately the same size as we have now. The booster growing a little bit with a at least a different designed hot staging ring in the render, but then Starship version 3 growing like ridiculously more. The booster is going to be like 100 or something meters tall. The ship is going to be 70 something meters tall. It is like,
big.
There are no words. It's big. That's the only word you can call it. It is going to be so big compared to Starship at the moment. And Starship at the moment is humongous. So it's getting even bigger. The physics are getting even crazier. You know, it's just like unfathomably large. And this thing is going to fly through the air and into space just like it's any other day. I mean, it's kind of berserk.
I know, right? Like, I'm very much, it's just, man, it's amazing to think about just how big this thing is going to be. And then the catch as well, which was being talked about yesterday. Just like, man, that's going to be absolutely spectacular when that happens. Seeing that thing
How long can you go? How long can you go?
Like, jeez. Like, either that is going to be like one of the most I think that will be more spectacular than seeing Falcon 9 land for the first time, to get caught by the chopsticks. And then that's either going to be one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen, or that's going to be one of the biggest, if you're a welder, move to Southern Texas projects you've ever seen in your life. And either way, it's going to be excitement guaranteed for sure with that. So I'm very much.
It'll be exciting to see, and if you're a welder, you might have a job afterwards.
Yeah, you might be looking at a big payout coming from that after all. So
there might be some work to do.
A few things around the launch site. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. We want it to work the first time. Because if it doesn't work, it is going to be big boom. But, you know, so it's welcome to aerospace. It's kind of how it goes. So yeah.
Yeah. For the timeline of that, which I thought was very interesting, now it's not sure whether this is SpaceX time, Gwen time, or Elon time. However, it was said in the presentation that they are going to attempt a virtual catch tower, which I assume is just an imaginary catch in the Gulf of Mexico, on Flight 4, which is this coming flight. And if that goes successfully, they will attempt an actual catch on the actual tower for Flight 5, which, assuming that the launch follows a 1.5, 2 month-ish kind of timeline like we're predicting with Flight 4, say after mid-May, that could be July for the first actual catch attempt, assuming everything goes as planned on Flight 4, which is, like the increase in size, also kind of bonkers, because like, even on Falcon's development scale, they didn't attempt a landing on a drone ship or a landing on a ground pad on Flight 5. And this is the world's biggest rocket ever built in terms of size, in terms of mass, in terms of thrust. And they're going to take the first stage of it and catch it with 2 arms sticking out of a tower on its 5th flight. Now, the process is berserk as it is, but Flight 5 is just... I just can't fathom it.
You know what would be interesting is if they told the tower that it was in some imaginary point in the middle of the ocean and related the mechanics and the navigation of the rocket to the tower and made the tower think that the rocket was coming in and actually did the chopstick arms and all that. and we could see both in parallel screens at the same time. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that I kind of thought of something like that a little while ago, and it would be like, what if they just take the booster's telemetry, offset it by however many kilometers downrange it is, right, and then it gives you like. Although I have to be honest, I'm a little bit pessimistic if the current chopstick systems will work, because they are squeaky when they lift ships and boosters, and they are not going as fast as they'll need to be going when lifting as when catching. So I'm a little bit pessimistic that it will be the current chopstick system. But Flight 5, I mean, I don't think they can build a brand new orbital launch tower, orbital launch mount, and chopstick system by July. You know, it's April. That would be 3-4 months of construction to build all of that is just ridiculous. So I'll be honest, I'm pessimistic, but
maybe it's already built. Come in.
Come in, everybody. Come on in.
In a way, it is, because the tower sections have been already constructed at the Cape, and then being 5 or 6 of them have been barged over to the port of Brownsville. And there's some construction going on right now at the production site to prepare to stack them all together. So they have been prefabricated, but the orbital launch mount ring is something very interesting, because we spotted on satellite imagery that it has been rolled outside of the hangar at the Cape. However, it's not sure if they're working on it, going to take it to the pad. Because at 39A, they've been demolishing the launch mount legs, which makes me think they're not going to be using that for the pad if they've just demolished it. So it's interesting. But then that thing is also very big, very heavy, and I don't think they'd be able to get it on a barge. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what actually happens with the second launch mount at Starbase.
So would they be launching from Boca Chica and trying to land the booster in Florida?
I don't think so, because the booster would need to expend a lot more fuel in order to get to Florida. In terms of the actual trajectory of the flight, I don't think the booster would be able to make it to the Cape, especially over flying land. I'm not sure how many people would be, flying over central Orlando with a 70-meter tall development prototype booster. I don't know how many people would, let's go for it. I think RTLS to Boca Chica is a much more realistic and, dare I say, safer proposal.
Mr. Huggy has an interesting proposal here, which is, SpaceX is wanting to upgrade the OLT. Having it be wrecked by IFT-5 would be a good way of doing it. So, yeah, you could just use your booster to take out your launch tower, and voila, you've handled test. I must have said something and upset someone. I disappeared there for a second. Are we streaming on X? Anyways, you could handle it that way. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Huggy. Always, the internet's always full of great ideas, right? So, right, isn't that good? Dave Avery asking for an IFT4 date. I would imagine that's probably not in the cards at the moment for us to know. Like the data review still needs to happen and things like that. So I personally haven't found anything yet.
Yes, I'll lay out all the things and then I'll make my decision, because I haven't 100% thought through it yet. So Elon has said in his talk, which I'll assume was this past week, because it wasn't live, it was just posted later. I'll assume it's in the past week. He said in a month from now. Now, assuming this is the start of April, that could mean the start of May. So let's be a little pessimistic on that date. Let's say 2nd week of May, 3rd week of May. But if we actually think about it, after Flight 3 took off, SpaceX managed to roll a ship to the suborbital launch stand B, static fire test it twice, roll it back, roll the booster 11 for Flight 4 to the orbital launch mount, stack it on there 21 days after the flight, which is ridiculously fast compared to Flight 1 and Flight 2. And then they fired all 33 engines of that booster for about 7 seconds, 22 days after Flight 3 launched. And if you take that change from Flight 1 to Flight 2 and Flight 2 to Flight 3 and now the Flight 3 to Flight 4 testing campaigns, you can see it getting significantly shorter every flight. So I think that from November to March, for Flight 2 to Flight 3, I think that can be, realistically shrunk down from March to May, because that's essentially 4 months to essentially just shy of 2 months or 2 months. I think that is a realistic time frame. Now, I may seem stupid or ridiculous for saying something so ludicrous, but SpaceX have proven it with the test campaign, so I don't really see any reason, apart from regulatory hold-ups, why the hardware wouldn't be physically ready. They've tested the ship, they've tested the booster, they've said both went successfully, so what's stopping them from putting them on the pad and launching them once the final touch-ups are done?
Their development moves at ludicrous speed, so your ludicrous assumptions on timelines, I don't think are unrational.
Yeah, it's all super fast. So, for all we know, they could be ready to launch from a week from now. So, if not even sooner, honestly, with some of those things.
John T says they've unstacked as of an hour ago.
Yeah, literally, the booster has just been removed from the pad, and they have a rollout closure tonight from 10 p.m. to 3 o'clock in the morning Central Time. I mean,
they don't stop, man.
By 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, the booster will be back, probably in the Mega Bay at the production site, ready for touch-ups, and they static fired a couple of days ago. They static fired on Friday. I mean, the pace is ridiculously quick, but they are doing it and they are making it real, which it doesn't make it seem ludicrous anymore, even though it is. It's utterly bonkers. No one else in the history of aerospace has moved so quickly with a rocket of this scale. Other than Falcon 9, think of a rocket which fired, took off, and then 22 days later, static fired on the exact same pad again.
I mean, you have to move fast to disrupt the industry, right? You have to be able to iterate quickly. Otherwise, you just burn through cash.
I'll pour that up.
Stephen Lewis has a suggestion of 420, and that doesn't seem like an unrealistic target for Elon.
It doesn't.
That's what it was last year, right?
I'm a little pessimistic on that one, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happens on there. I'd be like, oh, this is faster than I thought. But I think May is certainly the target internally for SpaceX based off if you're thinking quicker than Elon thinks quicker than anybody else. So I think thinking quicker than Elon could be slightly pushing it a bit.
Yeah, and then even Elon, even us mere mortals like Elon still have to obey physics and other things like that. So there is I do want to say there is an actual limit. That doesn't mean you can't build right up to that limit and stretch it as close as you can. But do understand that there are limits. Physics,
don't tell me there's limits. Don't tell me there's limits.
Limits.
You go faster. Go faster now. Go.
But I'm going to say that you will always approach a point where you will get diminishing returns. As to what that looks like, it is going to be absurd compared to even what SpaceX is doing right now. So let me just qualify. Let me put a little asterisk on my.
You're not going fast enough. You're fired.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. But yeah, I agree. A month sounds about right for that. And then Mr. Huggy saying, I could easily see turnaround times of about a month later this year. I'm a little bit more optimistic now that I feel like they've got stuff together on the launch front. I think they're going to be able to maybe get it down to 3 weeks. I would love to see them get it down to a month. I'd love to see them push it. And then Dave's basically saying first week of May in that area, Dave Avery, somewhere in there. So why not launch on a Saturday? Why not? Saturday's delightful. Go out.
They're destacking on a Sunday. Who cares?
Yeah, go out, have a picnic.
They don't care about weekends.
Go surfing for a little bit, then get off at the beach just in case, because you don't want to catch any souvenirs if something goes wrong. And then, just enjoy yourself. Once it's all done, go back out and enjoy yourself. That's the way it works. By the way, somebody would probably be very mad that I said that about Boca Chica. I imagine go to the beach, surf, get off of the beach, catch souvenirs could also apply to Vandenberg as well. So don't think I'm just limiting this to just Texas with what they've got there. I don't think you could do that at the Cape, right?
Mr. Huggy says after 420, the best meme day would be May 4th.
Or May 5th. So don't forget the May 5th people.
If Jamie has her,
I'm sure. I was going to say for Jamie, May 5th would be a bit bigger than May 4th. But also, I don't want to speak for Jamie as well on that. Yeah. So cool. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Either way, there's a lot going on that front. So very, very exciting. Yeah. Cool. Anything else on the spaceflight front this week? I think I mentioned Launcher, right?
Yes. So Launcher test fired their E2 engine, which what's the word I'm thinking of? Creatively means engine 2. And if you didn't know, a few months ago, Launcher was purchased by Vast, the space station company. So Launcher is now a subsidiary of Vast. I don't believe that they are now continuing development of their launch vehicle, because they were going to develop a small-sat launch vehicle to compete with the likes of Electron and Terran 1 and Astra Rocket 4. However, only one of them is flying today. The engine development side of Launcher is continuing to develop engines which I believe will be able to be sold to other companies who want to use their engines. So a similar model to, say, like the New Space people, such as Ursa Major, who are selling their engines to Stratolaunch, or even more traditional aerospace manufacturers, such as, say, Aerojet Rocketdyne, who build engines to sell to other people to put on their rockets. So I think that is a very nice step for Launcher to actually get a clean, from the photos, clean looking test firing of the E2. And very interestingly, even though I think it's an RP1 liquid oxygen engine, the flame burns very blue and it looks very pretty, which may have some people thinking, I'm sure there's a smart chemistry answer for why the flame was blue. If we have a smart chemistry person in the chat, please feel free to explain it to me. But I'm a bit confused why it is. My best guess is that it has something to do with the oxygen. But I at least I feel like I have been told historically blue flames are for methane or methalox engines and not Caralox engines.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it might have to do with the ablative properties of the nozzle on there. If it's ablative, I don't actually know what the nozzle is. But yeah, trying to figure that out. So it's an interesting one to look at. So yeah, it is very pretty though. I got to say, from looking at the videos of it, it is a gorgeous plume coming off of that engine there. So big fan of it. So I always there's some good mock diamonds in there too, I think. So yeah,
it's a very clean, sharp flame. It looks powerful, probably is powerful, and yeah, it's looking to be a solid engine from a testing standpoint. Obviously, it hasn't been flown yet, but before you can get good flights, you need good tests. So obviously, wish them the best of luck in developing that.
Yeah, 22,000 pounds of thrust coming out of that engine. So it's a good amount, good clip for a small sat launcher. So if anybody's in need of an engine for their small sat launcher, looks like Launcher, a subsidiary of Vast. Boy, that'd be a heck of an acronym to work with there.
It seems like there's some talk about the color of the flame emitted being related to the temperature of the plasma coming out of the engine.
Oh yes, 100%.
So So even with LOX kerosene, if you can run it hot enough, then you can turn the flame from orange yellow to bluish. But it still had little streaks of yellow, so it's evident that it's not methane only. It's or methyl LOX. It's still Keralox. They're just running it really super hot.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just astronomy over here. Things that are bluer are hotter, and things that are redder are cooler in terms of light being emitted. So like when you see blue stars, they have a much higher surface temperature than, say, a yellow star like our sun, or a red star like Proxima Centauri, something like that. So, yeah. So the more you know, I guess. You might be today years old to have learned this, for all I know. So there you go.
Liquid hydrocarbon. The color is mainly a product of microscopic particles of carbon soot glowing like a perfect black body. Because black body color is not quantized, the color of the soot becomes bluer as the temperature of the flame increases.
Excellent. That's a little physics there.
I'm going to pretend like I understood every single thing you just said.
Burns hotter.
Okay, I understood that part.
The bluer the flame, the hotter the stuff. So,
but that poses an interesting engineering challenge then, because if their flame is burning hotter, then they need either more ablative materials in their nozzle or active cooling in order to be able to keep it performing for the duration of a flight.
Yeah. So, yeah. I would imagine Methalox must burn hotter than Keralox does to begin with, right?
Yeah, it does, because the light emitted
it's got more energy. Yeah, and we're getting more energy out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is going to be hotter. So, anyways, that's a spicy Keralox engine there, let me tell you. So, but it's actually really, really cool. There you go, everybody. You watch tomorrow for the space flight, you get a physics lesson. So, from Dutta, in that case. So, thank you, Dutta. So, appreciate it. And then a slight amount of astronomy from that, I guess, for me. And then, like Ryan, we all get to learn together with this here. So, anyways, so what do we have anything else to talk about before we move on to, I guess, the very year lead of the day?
I don't think so. I mean, speaking of astronomy, I think there's no nicer, most spectacular event coming soon than what's going to happen tomorrow across the Pacific Ocean and North America and a teeny little slither of Europe.
Yeah, and it is indeed going to be a very, very big deal. Unfortunately, the only map that I have... what's up, Dutta?
Let me guess, it's not the teeny little sliver of Europe in which you reside.
No, it is not. It is a partial eclipse in Scotland, a bit of northern England, Ireland, the Azores Islands, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, but no, literally the opposite corner of the UK to me.
Huh. Sorry. So there's no part of the UK that's going to have totality?
There is.
At all?
No part of totality, but it'll be a partial. Totality ends, I'd say, probably just shy of 1,000 miles from the Atlantic coast of Ireland. So, because unfortunately, we're not... If the Earth rotated slightly slower, then we would have been able to see it. Let's put it that way. But unfortunately, an Earth day is 24 hours and a bit, so we're just slightly cut off. But if we just change the orbital mechanics, well, then we wouldn't have the eclipse at all. So well, what if we just move the moon? Let's have it so we have a total solar eclipse once a month for everyone to see.
Oh boy, this is that scene from Austin Powers where the president is like, or he's like, God, just let me shoot all the missiles at the moon, and the general is like, are you suggesting we blow up the moon? And I always like how the president goes, would you miss it? Would you miss it? So I'm sure if we put enough rocket engine, if we fired all of the rocket engines in the world in the correct direction, I'm sure we could slow down the Earth enough to get totality to you, Ryan. So, according to Reddit, I once read that. Anyways, I'm sorry. I get one a year. There's my one Reddit joke a year. You're welcome. That's it. So, but anyways, for everyone else that is going to have totality, here we are, at least a United States-centric version of it here.
Well, you can kind of see a bit of Mexico and a bit of Canada.
Yeah, and I mean, Canada's going to get it a bit. Mexico's, if I recall correctly, Mexico actually has the area where you're going to have the most amount of totality. I think it's somewhere near 4 minutes, 40 seconds, something like that. Also off in the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Mexico as well. But for most of us, I'm sure our viewers, yeah, we're going to be in the United States here, and probably doing our best to, I don't want to necessarily say scream down the highway to try to find a open patch of sky. But it's definitely not looking as promising as everyone was expecting it to. So I guess just to kind of nail it down where we're going to be at, you're going to be coming through the Texas area here, clipping a little bit into Oklahoma, Arkansas, as well going into Missouri here. Very slight amount of Kentucky. Tennessee, if you're kind of on the corner of Tennessee there, you should be able to do it. A little bit of Illinois, Indiana, also Ohio. Warning, you are in Ohio. Slight amount of Pennsylvania and New York there, along with Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And then we're going into our neighbors to the north, Canada, up in there. And I believe it's Newfoundland that's actually going to get a lot of that as well. Where are some of the big cities in here that we're looking at? Burlington in Vermont, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, and Niagara Falls in New York. Cleveland, you're going to be in it. Holy Toledo, you're in it too, along with Akron, Ohio. Let's see, some other big ones. Carbondale, Illinois, which actually not only are they in the center line for the 2024 eclipse, they were in the center of totality for the 2017 eclipse as well. So they got a double dose of eclipses within a decade, 7 years apart, which, by the way, on average, wherever you are on the Earth will get an eclipse about once every 375 years. So everyone in Carbondale, buy a lotto ticket tomorrow. But you have to have lived. You have to live in Carbondale. That's the key to that. Let's see. Also, Little Rock as well in Arkansas, or as my grandmother, who was from Arkansas, would have said, Arkansas. Texarkana and Dallas and Arlington, Fort Worth. That's the area that I'm going to be in. Probably screaming across the plains there, trying to figure out where to go. Austin,
go away,
and
Clouds.
San Antonio. Yeah, basically that's what I am. Myself and a multitude of others are going to be screaming at this, because we were all told that Texas was going to be the best weather. Like, that was the place to go. But guess what? Turns out, not really looking like Texas is actually going to end up being the best place for weather, at least here in the United States. Anybody want to take a guess at where the best weather in the United States is going to be?
New England.
New England? Yes, indeed. I can't
the
believe
irony,
it.
The utter irony.
If you want to have a cloud-free view of the eclipse, you need to go to Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine. Places well known for clouds and their cloudy weather. I can't believe it. Like, of all the places with it here. So these are the latest predictions from our friends over at Pivotal Weather. As you can see, quite a substantial amount of the United States is out of luck. So it goes. That's just, welcome to the eclipse experience with it. That's kind of...
And let it be said that even if you're not in the path of totality, still look at the eclipse because it's still really cool. They don't happen
Yes.
in your area all that often, so wherever
No.
you are, if you're anywhere near a partial solar eclipse, it's still going to be cool to look at. Don't look at the sun directly. Only
Need to
use
be wearing
the
these.
the certified glasses, or make a shadow on a piece of paper.
Mine's have flames on them, so they're really good. These are at least worth 10 to 15 extra horsepower.
That's not your
So
retinas burning.
it could be. It very well could be with them there. I have no idea where anybody is right now because I can't see anything. Um, where did everybody go? I don't know.
I
Anyways,
won't be
you
able
do
to see
need.
any eclipse, but I'm still prepared because it is important to not look directly at the sun. Because if you do that,
Yes.
you will be blinded, and no one
Yes,
wants
that's
that.
very true.
So do not look directly at the sun. Wear proper
I'm glad.
glasses. If
No,
you
no, I'm not sure.
if you even if you have a pair of these, if they're damaged or scratched, do not look at the sun with them because they won't do their
No,
job.
no, they won't.
You need a healthy
So,
pair of solar viewing glasses.
yes, a healthy, well cared for, emotionally happy pair of Eclipse glasses. So, so yeah. And really, honestly, we're making a bit of a joke, but you do actually need these. Or, like you said, done a pinhole projector, which one way you can do that, you could actually like just basically take something like
Any
cardboard, poke a very small hole in it, and then
anything that's got a
you
hole
know
in it makes a cool shadow.
yes, put it a distance away from something you can actually do it. I do want to say for the annular eclipse that we had in October when I was up at work at Griffith Observatory, I literally took my hands and I just did this where I made a little like
Hmm.
crosshatch pattern with my hands, and I was able to get a couple like projected images of a crescent sun through my fingers. So like you don't even really need a hardcore equipment with it there. So I do want to say in our comment section, a few people have said welding helmets. I always say don't do a welding helmet because you never know what the ISO approval is going to be on a welding helmet. It's always a roll of the dice with those. So don't do it. Sunglasses,
It
don't do it.
if you're technically minded enough to understand the ISO certifications for the particular welding helmet that you're using, and they match exactly to the ISO requirements of of certified solar glasses, that's acceptable. But we
Yes.
cannot say, and it's typically not the case, that welding helmets, welding goggles, grinding goggles, any of that stuff has the same certification. So no, not welding
Yeah.
helmets, not
I would.
sunglasses, not
No.
certified solar eclipse glasses.
Telescopes and binoculars? Absolutely not. I don't even. I know some people say that. Oh, just use your telescope as a projector for that, and I always say don't even do that because you don't know who is. If you don't have an eye on your telescope the whole time, or you're not standing right next to your telescope, you don't know who's going to walk up to it and put their eye right in the eyepiece as it's staring directly at the sun, and basically that's it. That eye's done immediately.
Concent- Concentrated blindness.
Yeah, essentially, it literally burns your retina, and that is instantaneous blindness. So, no to telescopes, no to binoculars. If you have solar filters that are of quality and they're not scratched or damaged in any way, you can. But these are the kinds of things that you need to ask a professional about. Much like the welders things, I would if somebody was a welder and said I've got welders classes for it, I would trust them a bit more than just a regular member of the public saying I went to Harbor Freight this morning and bought a welder's mask and I'm good. Um, you know, so ultimately, if there's one thing I could say about an eclipse, it's that for most of the time of the eclipse, don't look at it. But once you get, if you are in that path of totality, if you're in that area here in the United States, or Canada or Mexico or the Atlantic or Pacific, wherever you may be, if you're in that dark line, if you're in that area where the sun is going to be covered fully by the moon, absolutely take a look. You're going to get some time. Yes, Mark, you can only take the glasses off during totality, and there are some very key moments as well that will tell you when it's okay to take it off. Usually, when things go immediately dark, you're still not quite at the point. You'll have what we call the diamond ring, which will be this point where the sun is there's still a sliver of sun there, and you don't want to look at that directly. You can look a little bit off to the side, like way off to the side of the sun, to enjoy the diamond ring. And then you'll get these things called Bailey's beads, which are basically the sun coming through very low valleys on the side of the moon. And then it'll officially slip behind the moon, and you'll get totality, and you'll see the unbelievable corona of the sun. And I'm not sure what the predictions are showing for this year. I was actually going to pull that up right now. But I remember back in 2017, they got spot on. And I'm hoping that we'll have some good stuff.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Whilst you look for the predictions, I brought up my notes here for the NSF stream tomorrow, which you should totally watch. Mexico, the United States, and Canada are the countries which will be able to see the totality, and I have a list here of other places around the world which will be able to see a partial. Mainly focused around a significant partial, which I've kind of classed as approximately 50% or more, which is in roughly this order: Kiribati, French Polynesia, the US minor outlying islands, the Cook Islands, Guatemala, Belize, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Greenland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, the Azores, Ireland, and the United Kingdom. So if you are in or near any of those places, you will at least see a partial solar eclipse. Maybe. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully you'll get it. That area there. I have found the eclipse prediction, and it is absolutely stunning. This is coming directly from NASA as I pull it up here. And if this is what it's really going to look like, I am going to probably pass out. Seeing that. I don't think the colors are going to be there, but that is unbelievable if we're going to get huge streamers from the corona looking like that. That's going to be massive. And then planets like Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, Mars, and several of the brightest stars in the sky, Sirius and Vega and several others, will be visible if you're in the path of totality. Take a look around you, because you will see essentially sunsets, the red of sunset and sunrise in every single direction around you. It's a very eerie experience. I remember that was, I think, the weirdest thing for me was seeing that. You're used to seeing it where the sun is at, not entirely around you 360 degrees. And that was unbelievable.
You mean we can see Mercurus?
Mercurus? Yes, this is one of the few ways you can see Mercurus. Mercurus, the sun, Uranus, water planet, Pluto, and this one's too far away. They don't have a name for it. So, yeah, if anybody knows what...
Anything that creates a shadow, if there's a hole through it, will project an eclipse, including the holes between leaves in the trees.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to be doing a really cool experiment of my own during the eclipse, where I'm going to be wearing a green shirt, and there's something called I believe it's called the Purkinje effect, which is a psychological. It's an effect with the color and photoreceptors of your eyes during eclipse. That when it darkens, reds become darker and duller, and greens and blues become brighter and more vibrant. So tomorrow I'm going to be wearing a green shirt in order to see if my shirt becomes more vibrant. in the shadow of the moon, if I luck out to get the shadow of the moon. Because again, there's lots of clouds. I'm going to be in northern Texas, which is looking actually good. Now the weather's looking manageable. And I do want to remind people too that even if there is weather happening where you're at in the path of totality, it's still going to become night for a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like you're going to be like, oh man, and then just go inside and like nothing happens. Like, no, stay outside.
I totally missed it.
Look at everything get dark around you for a couple minutes. Feel the temperature
and you might
drop.
Depending how high the clouds are, you might even be able to see, if you have good visibility, like the edge of the shadow as it moves across the cloud surface. Like, I may even make an argument seeing that is cooler than seeing the actual eclipse itself, because you get to see this huge shadow like drift across the Earth's surface at like Mach 2, which is, you know, stupendously quick.
I was just saying last night to some coworkers that I'm not going to be out in Texas. Most of the clouds that are predicted are to be high clouds, which high clouds, the view can punch through high clouds. It's really low clouds that you have to worry about. Even with low clouds, you will still get sudden night for a couple minutes. But with high clouds, it can still punch through and you can still see it very easily. And if there are high clouds, it should, even with a very thin layer of high clouds, it still should allow us to see the shadow come through. And I don't want clouds, but at the same time, if there are high clouds tomorrow, as there are predicted in the part of Texas I'll be in, I will see about maybe recording that. Really, one of the things that I always recommend to people for eclipses too is that if this is your first eclipse, don't record it. Don't take a camera with you. Stand there and enjoy it. Just take it in, because there's going to be, in a case of something like this, there's probably going to be 1 million people with DSLRs and mirrorless cameras that are going to be getting a way better photo than you can ever dream of. So don't even sweat it. Maybe take one with, that's in 2017 I did that. I took like a quick one with my phone and then just put my phone down and I just sat back and enjoyed it. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one. And I'm not taking a camera with me. I'm just going to snap a photo with my phone, maybe take a video to show the shadow approaching, but once totality comes, quick photo, put it down, all good. So enjoy live in it.
If you're not a follower of Smarter Every Day, they did a fantastic video on some of the things that you can look for during the eclipse, from temperature changes to color changes to weird shadows. Very highly suggest you check that out. And Dave Avery has a point. A pinhole has no focal length, but the distance from the pinhole to what it's projecting on determines not only the image size but the blurriness of the edges.
Very, very cool. And so I think Sarunas has all of us beat here, which is, speaking of the moon shadow, last year I got to capture it from a satellite in space. That is absolutely awesome.
Nice.
So
I don't want to give too much away, but if you're not in the path of the eclipse and you would like to see the shadow move live across the Earth's surface from geostationary orbit, wink, wink, I might have a place for you to watch from tomorrow.
Now, where would that be?
Where is that, Ryan?
YouTube.com/@NASA Spaceflight. You go live at, I looked it up to remember it and then I forgot again. 16:30 Universal. So -4 for Eastern, -6 for Central. -5 for Central. Sorry, daylight time. I'm getting confused.
-7 for Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
So represent.
I think the like go out and see this, because I think the next solar eclipse in the United States at least is in 2044, 2045.
Correct. Yes, it will be 20 years from now. So I believe there's supposed to be one in Alaska in the 2030s, but it's going to be like in March, which is not.
And that's Alaska. Who on earth wants to go to Alaska? It's miles away, and it's cold. Okay, you'll be going to Alaska. Okay, fine.
I would drive to it, honestly.
Incorrect opinion. I'll put my hands up.
That would be a great road trip.
Yeah,
But,
Dada,
yeah.
I think I have an idea for what we should do in 12 years. So,
And there's a
Let's do it.
tweet here
Start
as
planning
well
now.
from the Armstrong Air and Space Museum, which I shared in the NSF Discord earlier because I thought it was very funny. And they're in Ohio, the Armstrong Air and Space Museum. They tweeted, "Update: in case of inclement weather for viewing the eclipse, the museum has set an alternate rain date for Monday, September 14th, 2099. Mark your calendars just in case." And I thought that was brilliant.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nicely
That is
done.
awesome.
Yeah. I think for us here in Los Angeles, the next eclipse with the path of totality that crosses us is sometime in the 3000s. So we're going to have to wait a little bit. So go.
Yeah.
If you can, go. I don't care where you are in the world. If it's somewhere near, if you are near the path of totality, if you are within a reasonable travel distance of 2 to 3 days to the path of totality, go. If you don't, you're missing out. I could explain what it's like to you, but I can't. It's just it
words cannot explain.
It transcends my ability to make words work correctly. I guess is how I would say it. So you have to be there. You gotta be there to see it. So, anyways, speaking of being there to see it, I gotta get going so I could do that. And I think we pretty much hit the end of this episode anyhow with that. So I want to thank all of you who helped make the shows of tomorrow possible. Did you know that it literally takes, it's as little as 99 cents a month to become a member of Tomorrow? Now, some of the cool things that you get to do as a member of Tomorrow, you get access to our members only after show, which if you've just become a member, congratulations, we're not doing one this week because I'm bailing. I'm getting out of here. So Dada and Ryan, I don't know if y'all are sticking around, but if you do, there you go.
No after show today.
Yeah, no after show this week. We're very sorry, but it's one of those things where even if you signed up right now, you're getting in the after show. And if you're one of these folks, our Escape Velocity members, you get access to our Escape Velocity channel in our Discord server, where we've got a whole bunch of dad jokes and a whole bunch of other really funny things. You basically get to see us coordinate, do the logistics, talk directly to us. Just basically, we talk about cool stuff in there that we may not necessarily talk about public side. With things there. So feel free. And then, of course, our Discord server is just free to join as well. Jump in and say hello and have a good time. And again, thank you all so much. If you'd like to, you can head to youtube.com/TMRO/join. Boy, it's been a while since I've hosted, and I forgot that there are quite a lot of things that have to happen in order to make that work. But I want to thank everyone on the show today. Ryan, thank you so much for all of your contributions today and in the past and in the future as well. And I'm looking forward to y'all's broadcast tomorrow because I will be watching it while I'm on the road, freaking out in Texas, trying to figure out how to get away from the clouds.
We'll have weather updates, which will be useful for you. Weather updates.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. One of the people I'm going with is a National Weather Service spotter, so I'm pretty excited about the fact that we have a actual weather person in our crew of 4 with this. Nice. So. But we'll take anything. We'll take any data we can get.
Just want it to be noted that if you do join Tomorrow now, you can fill up your waiting time for the eclipse with all of our past member shows that you previously weren't able to see, and get some space nerdery while you're waiting.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. We'll definitely be back next week. We'll have an eclipse to talk about. Maybe some preliminary science, because NASA will be flying some aircraft in the shadow of the moon, doing some ground science and even some science from space that I'll tell you about as well. And of course, we'll probably have more SpaceX news because when don't we? So that's kind of just how it goes. Yeah, we'll have to report that they turned a bolt at Starbase. All right, everybody. See you later. Have a good one.
Safe. Don't look directly at the sun.
Don't.